And welcome to Things You Might Not Have Heard for the 26th of January, 2026. I am Jay Cleveland Payne here at you today, not so much a today only, but just sort of jumping in to try to test out some things going forward to see how things are working today. So I know you may not have been inspecting me, but you may not have been inspecting a lot going on. In fact, today you won't expect that we have 11 stories for you for this Monday. Yes, long-time viewers, listeners to the podcast know we do 10 stories on Monday, an extra 2 for the extra 2 days that we have in the weekend. But we have a 11th story because once I went through the walkthroughs of the stories, I realized I literally have 3 stories dealing with the Minnesota shooting, but nothing with the weather that has us stuck here. So we will cover everybody. The gamut will be taken care of. Trust me on this one. We have everybody covered to a T. To include for the Conversation Project's mission that they were your home for headline news and information and pop culture references that are worth chatting about. We have a lot on the Minneapolis ICE shooting and some sort of side work that got snuck in there that you may have missed while you're watching the video over and over again and trying to figure out how they're coming up with the flat lies that they're explaining it. We're going to go to Super Bowl 60 as is now set. Punxsutawney Phil is in effect and maybe in a special effect if some people get their way with that. Plus, like I said, 7 other stories that were planned, although 3 of them are Minneapolis, and the extra on the snow, which we'll get to in just a moment. Now, remind you that our website home is this. It's conversationproject.com for more details on what we do around there. It's very simple. Just go to the website and see past episodes, see some things we've done in the meantime, see some things we're working on right now to improve what we're doing because we've been on a hiatus of such, and we still are taking on hiatus. We're still experimenting with some things, but we've had some things where I've stepped out and have been a bit more vocal in, let's just say, taking a side, if you will. Some people like it, some people don't. We'll see how that works out for all of us going forward in the future. So for right now, let's get to the now, that's the future part, and the stories 11 for this Monday morning here today. As I said, I was working and focusing so much on the actual work in Minneapolis, where I have the first top 3 stories are orbiting around essentially in that area, that it dawned on me literally as I was making coffee to come back upstairs to come and do the reporting. I didn't even talk about the snow, which is part of the story because I'm literally snowed in right now or iced in based on our conditions here in Arkansas. But at this very moment, this winter weathery mix of ice and snow and just despair has about 100,000 people short short on power right now. Luckily, we have it, and we're giving you this thing live via the internet, so you're welcome. But right now, conditions are terrible. This is a picture, I don't even know where it is, but this is a picture of people who really should not be on the road in these conditions right now. Millions of Americans have been blanketed in snow and ice starting late Friday, going into early this morning. And there's still some snow that is expected for folks on the eastern coast as the storm clouds, as the snow clouds make their way towards the ocean and further north towards Canada. This is something that has actually affected a big chunk of Mexico and Canada as well. So this is a story that we expect to be the overtaking of everything when we started the weekend, just kind of watching and sitting by, going through. I am snowed in. I am not going to physical work for. Should have experimented with not doing this news today based on this. I'm not going into work physically for a couple days. My daughter is not making it into school. Because when ice and snow comes down in Arkansas, people go nuts. So we're essentially snowed in, remote work and you know, their packets and their stuff on their chat and their Chromebooks for the kids and stuff. I'm doing remote classes today. But this is something that basically has people not going anywhere for a while. You'll hear more about the clearing of the snow, the clearing of the storm, the clearing of what's going on, and hopefully the fixes for power issues as well. Power outages here in Arkansas, because I've been focusing mostly on the Arkansas area and North Louisiana where my folks live, has been very low, very not too intensive. But in places like Mississippi, where they got a whole lot more ice than it did the snow, they took down the grid in some issues, and a lot of the area, a lot of the eyeballs are on Texas, which we've not heard a lot of bad stories out of Texas yet, but we do have the issues that is Texas, because it's Texas. It's always Texas. So that's it. So make sure you are covered. Make sure you're taken care of. If you are snowed in, make sure that you're taken care of and can have access to what you need to. The snow and the cold did not affect very much going on in Minneapolis over the weekend as they continue to have protests. And it was one particular protester that turned into the news story that we basically all focus on right now. Multiple bystander videos and eyewitness statements are contradicting what the federal government are saying in their version of the January 24th shooting of 37-year-old Alex Petty, and in Minneapolis, showing that he never brandished a gun. That's what the videos show, and was filming with his phone when the agents engaged him. In the videos and eyewitnesses basically said that although the state, if you will, have said that Petty had a gun, approached the officers, and was on a tear to kill many, hurt many. People around there said he just had up his phone and was doing nothing when the things escalated towards him. Mr. Petty was an ICU nurse and a lawful gun owner, had a permit for the gun he was holding onto it, and no criminal record whatsoever. In the videos, many of them, they appear to be pepper spraying him, pinning him to the ground, and then being shot by many agents in a melee. I think 10 shots were fired. He was shot 9 times in the actual incident. The temporary restraining order is now on a hold for Homeland Security officers because they were trying to clean the scene pretty quickly. They, being the state, not the state that the government, like the federal government, wanted to have some control, as Minnesotans and the local authorities want to do the investigation because they don't trust the federal government here. DHS blocked many state access to all the areas going on in the initial area. They did allow the body, because he was pronounced dead on the scene for the most part, allow him to take him to the hospital to try to revive him. It did not work. Eyewitnesses accounts and just all the talk and back and forth from this Saturday incident is basically falling in line with what the people think and what the Minnesotans think, and not what the government's saying, not what's coming from Kristi Noem about him being a violent criminal. In fact, yesterday, Sunday, there was a press conference where they outlined the very bad guy that they were trying to actually apprehend, and they were blaming Petty for getting in the way of that apprehension, and saying that a very dangerous criminal got released or got let go because of this guy here they shot, without any acknowledgement or apologies for shooting a guy. Meanwhile, CEOs of many of the agencies, many of the companies that are based in Minneapolis and Minnesota are asking for a de-escalation right now. Places like Target, Best Buy, United Health Group, 3M, Cargill, and some other major firms have signed a letter calling for immediate de-escalation of the tensions. This happened essentially hours within the incident on Saturday. The open letter urges state, local, and federal leaders to collaborate on solutions to restore stability in Minnesota and their communities and their neighbors and all, as opposed to the economic disruption and all the serious protests that are legal, most of them legal, but still causing this just the outrage and the temperature to stay up high in an area where freezing is what you're expecting in the winter. It also had some effect on some sports teams, where the Vikings, Timberwolves, and the Minnesota United FC also jumped in on this letter and had some words to say about this one. In fact, they postponed the basketball game on Saturday between the Timberwolves had as a home game to push it back to Sunday, and both coaches had a chance to talk about the incident in their pre-press conferences for the games. We'll see if the business owners and what they say has something to do with what's going on there, whether they'll have some calming effects on the feds, because the feds are really making the stink right here. But we'll have to kind of play that one by ear. We'll see. This last one is a bit of a swerve that got kind of mixed in the last minute. You might not have paid attention to this one because it was, I heard about it as some little quick little quip inside of a coverage somewhere. And then I had to go look for it. I pulled it out there and it didn't get a lot of play because most people were dealing with the video. But here is a statement or a offer by Pam Bondi saying that they'll pull ICE out of Minneapolis if voter files are shared. Now, hear me out here. Attorney General Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General, responded to Governor Walz after the Alex Pretty shooting, specifically, when Walz basically asked, let's get these people out of here because this escalation is bad. Here were her demands: cooperation on voter rolls and other state data. She tied a willingness to negotiate federal immigration enforcement to such data sharing in a letter that also defended the DHS operations. What does that mean? That means that this immigration push is not a push about immigration. It's a push about controlling elections. That's what it means. There's no gray area. They're saying, well, we'll pull these officers out here we say are doing great work, but you've got to give us all the information you have on the voter roll so we can see who's out there in your neighborhoods, and essentially not so we can send them more mail, so we can suppress some voting. That's what it means going forward. As a person who lost their job in broadcasting, mostly because bills weren't getting paid, ads weren't being sold, and the stations that I was running have a need, have a want, have a utility. They still exist. They just weren't paying enough to have a staff of people to do extra things. So basically running on just a low level of just sort of existence is all you have. This one hits me hard, and it hits me hard because it's a seemingly fairly big operation. The Washington Post may actually eliminate sports coverage. The newspaper, where people used to go to read the news and get the sports and get the full coverage, may actually drop all of its sports coverage after it's already dropped its Olympic coverage. The indications on social platforms is that the Post may eliminate its full sports section in the wake of scaling back its coverage for the Olympics this year. Olympics starts in about 2 weeks, and right now we don't have very much coming from the local sports guys in the Post. They'll do things they'll get things from the wires or pencil, essentially. The specific outlines, the confirmations have not been there. There's no clarification. There is no actual memos or things for the public to see, but the whispers and innuendo and then just the things that are out there is that editorial restructuring details are going to be released soon to revive the very much, Trump is kind of honest on some of the failing Washington Post, because they're cash strapped. And because of the money it was spent to send people to do Olympic coverage, they're not doing it. So they're not doing it. And so maybe sports is going to be on the chopping block for the Washington Post. If you are a person in D.C. and love the Post's Washington sports coverage, you may be losing it very soon. We don't bring up the Winklevoss twins often because they're more of a punchline, an afterthought. I mean, after their portrayal in the movies about Facebook and just being just rich dudes that are just rich dudes to be rich dudes, there's not much to talk about them in this grand scheme of things. But they actually had some issues, law issues lately, and they're cleared. So let's bring up the Winklevoss. The SEC is now withdrawing a lawsuit against Gemini Crypto Exchange, which is owned by the twins. The reports on this one has the SEC actions suggesting the agency has going to or is withdrawing this lawsuit against the Gemini Crypto Exchange, which ends enforcement proceedings that had targeted the platform and its leadership. And so that's everybody involved. There's crypto's not so much a scam, but the way they run it makes it pretty scammy. It's easy to get people stuck in there. And the Winklevoss twins, who are known for finding big batches of money that they can grab onto quickly, were implicated in this actual company here. I'm sure they have other companies going back and forth, and this is not their first or last time to be in trouble for anything. But we shall see how the Winklevoss twins will continue with this one. Probably with the martini or a White Claw or something, and just kind of roll with it. We need you to help get things rolling here. Now, here's something that's been interesting. Even though we've had about 2 weeks off of work here, we have slowly gained some more subscribers, more background, more comments, more people giving me input to do things going forward. We are about 10 subscribers away from 4,000 subscribers. It's amazing. 3,000 subscribers, 2,990 and change. So we're about 10 away from 3,000 subscribers. That will be awesome. That will be great, and we can get there pretty quickly. We also suspect to have some more steady activity once we hit that number, because we've been playing around and we're really working the angles to make things work going forward. So if you want to help us hit that number, it's very simple. It's very simple. Go to wherever we are and like, share, and subscribe to the videos we produce. If you're watching this, you can do it right there. This is a live video or a recording of the live video. Subscribing means we get a number of people that we think are getting the video. We know everyone that subscribes doesn't get that video, but it also helps with numbers when we so out to talk to advertisers and when this is for my ego. Liking and sharing means that the videos we're producing, the news we're giving to you, the opinion that we are offering is good enough or bad enough. You may hate like it, that's not a problem, that you want to keep engaging with it. Sharing it is a quick way to engage with it and show other people, like-minded people, to love or hate it as well. And subscribing is the bare bones number that we know how we keep things going. Like I said, we're almost at 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it's amazing for us. We're happy there. We'll see how our numbers will go for the year, but right now, let's hit one milestone at a time. Like, share, and subscribe to help us grow these things. And if you're seeing this kind of new and wondering, if it's this infrequent, this is normally a Monday through Friday thing. So we'll get back on track. You want to go to backstory? It's sad. I'll start crying. But all that stuff is there for you at our website. This is theconversationproject.com. A matchup from 11 years ago. Let's run it back, baby. Super Bowl 60 will feature a rematch between the Patriots and the Seahawks going forward. So it's not necessarily two brand new teams, but it's not the Chiefs, and it's not the Bills, and it's not the Eagles. So these are going to be some fresher teams getting a chance to get a championship. Although they both have won many championships. The Seahawks have won their own, and of course the Patriots are the dynasty that was with one Tom Brady. This may be the start of the new Drake May era coming forward. And this is confirming a marquee matchup because these are two of the best teams in the season. In fact, what happened was, for this weekend, people believed that the game with the Seahawks was essentially the Super Bowl, as those were the best two teams on the field, being the Rams and the Seahawks. And the game in Denver, where Denver could have won and maybe should have won, but they've lost their starting quarterback, Bo Nix, to have a backup who didn't do very bad. But they also had issue where in the second quarter, it was a nice sunny day, and in the fourth quarter, it was a super blizzard. So it got weird really fast in Denver. And somehow, in a game where none of the kickers could make any kicks, the one kicker that made a kick was for the actual Patriots, and they held on to by dear life to win that game and head to the Super Bowl. 2 weeks of hype. There's a flag football game somewhere in there for the Pro Bowl, but we'll get to some real deals, real commercials, real snacks, and the champion of the world, although it's really just American football, in about 2 weeks. Let's talk news, more things that bother me in a news sort of, or in a broadcast version, because it hits me locally, because I'm no longer in local media, but it hits me locally because I follow this stuff as a business sense going on. Nexstar, Fox, and Sinclair are asking the FCC to lift ownership caps in local markets. Doesn't seem like a bad deal, because it means one buyer with a lot of money can actually own a bunch of market share for some stations, and everyone gets paid. They can do what they want to. This is working with Nexstar, Fox, and Sinclair, going to ask the FCC to make this local ownership cap go away, or at least lift it and make it a bit bigger. This is framing for a move as modernization of outdated regulatory limits and boosting the broadcast competitiveness. Except when everybody is owned by the same people, there is no competitiveness. We see this here, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a terrible thing, but here in Little Rock, we have ownership of the Fox station and the NBC station, and they have synergies and things that go back and forth. But they also do a great job when they have storm coverage. They have 12 meteorologists that can come on the air and go back and forth between two channels. It's actually pretty good and that ends. But as far as synergies and what they do in local programming, it's now become essentially vanilla. And for a while, it was kind of weird that this smaller channel was owned by a larger conglomerate, and they bought the larger channel, and the smaller channel sort of dictated what goes on the larger channel and sort of watered them down. That's what we're seeing right here. When local areas have the ability to own more local things, more things, not so much more pieces of the puzzle, more stations, just more local market stations. One big boss overseeing two stations can control what's on either side and can move things back and forth. It gets a little ugly as it goes. Actually, oops, I'm sorry. That's for this picture right here. I actually skipped the headline. You might have wondered why there's a weird lady in striped pants standing around with the cops around her. This is a very quick story. We'll hit this one real quick. Where an 80-year-old man who had been held in a windowless basement for 20 years has been freed, and confirmed that this torture cell existed for 20 years, and this man was in there for 20 years. Rescued, and investigators went to the long-term abuse and elder vulnerability protections, and legal proceedings are unfolding. 2 people were arrested in this one lady here, and more folks. We'll hear more about this one as this unfolds. This was kind of ugly, kind of nasty, kind of but it is what it is. It now hopefully was what it was, and this is hopefully a better activity for the man who can now live out his days, hopefully with a whole lot less stress and craziness. Let's talk stress and craziness in Florida, because it's there. Representative Maxwell Frost says he was punched at a Sundance Film Festival party. There was a whole lot of talk about Sundance this year. In fact, the biggest talk was that many people believe they ain't going back because the experience is not what it once was and will never be anything good. But Florida Representative Maxwell Frost was there, and he reported that he was punched at a party during the Sundance Film Festival. My script here says incidents under investigation. Other articles that popped up between here and what we pulled said that somebody's been arrested for the accosting of him. We'll see how this one plays out going forward. As I said, we're sort of pulling things together because, we've been a hiatus, and 3 of the stories came out about Minneapolis, which were important to kind of lay them out that way. But this is some things we're doing with some news coverage, so we'll go there. We also have a comment. I'll read the comment in a moment as well. And our final story, the 11th story, oddly enough today, but usually it's 10, is that PETA is proposing a replacement, a fill-in for Phil, Punxsutawney, if you will, a 3D hologram for him to speak to the world. Now, the groundhog doesn't really speak. Groundhog doesn't really say very much, and the fact that they just sort of go with it, who really knows if the groundhog sees a shadow? But PETA is proposing replacing at least Phil, I'm sure there's plenty of other groundhogs to replace, with a 3D hologram for Groundhog Day this year, to make the tradition more up to date, up to speed, and of course be nicer to the live animal. Offering to fund and create the holograph itself, because they're like it that way. Reactions range from amusement and some general support, like, yeah, we can do that, to what the hell are we doing with this thing? Does it really matter? It's one groundhog, can't you just feed them for the rest of the year? So we will see whether in a few weeks or but a week or so, whether we'll see 6 more weeks of winter, early spring in a holographic sort of presentation, where the Tupac's hologram and Michael Jackson's hologram will hang out and sort of do the Return of the Jedi sort of head nod to the new hologram joining the thing, or whether we'll stick with all the rodents who tell us the weather. And right now, trust me, we can use a whole lot more spring right now, this very, very moment. So thank you. Oh, and let me see if I can actually do this today. Here we go. Living in Arizona, I am normally not up this time to catch a show. Glad I got up in time. Love it. Thank you, Duchess of Picture Rocks. Appreciate you commenting on us today. We will see what we can to do this. As we say, every single weekday we do this, we turn this thing on at 5:30 in the morning. So, which if you're Arizona is right now, I think it's 4:30 in the morning. Maybe it's 3:30 because Arizona is weird like that. But I'm glad you dropped in today. Watch it on a replay, watch some of our clips, follow us and subscribe so you can see some of the details. We're going to do a better job of getting some clips out there that will refresh some things we do, time-wise, things going on. It's a big expansion of how my life is working or not working and how we've been doing this, working on this thing in parallel and going forward to make it work. That was an odd transition, but hey, it's all about odd transitions sometimes these days. This is also an odd transition, but it is a transition as we make our way out of our news coverage for the day. This is our spot for our spot. And today we're talking about, as we usually talk about, ground news. Even when I'm not around, ground news is there as, but not so much as a go-between, but as your direct line for good coverage of the news and bad coverage of the news, because I've got some bad news for you. What ground news does is not give you the best news ever. It gives you all the news ever. So you can actually go through it and you can figure out what you want to read, understand, and believe. It's one of those things where it's if you give someone too much information, they may shut down. And sometimes that's what happens with people with ground news when they get a chance to get a taste of what the other sides are putting out there because their side doesn't want them to see it. In fact, that's part of what they do with what they have in their Vantage plan. It gives them the full package of news to coverage, and they have a blind spot feature that allows you to see what news is being covered by certain entities, what news they're hiding behind and not showing you. So whether your favorite podcast or news site heads to have a bit of a slant to it, because it is, you can see what other slants are out there, what other coverage is there, and sort of gauge who's doing the best in covering the story with the facts or who's doing the worst with covering the story with the innuendo. Your mileage may vary, and Ground News will take good care of you. They also take pretty good care of us as a sponsor. If you go to our website link at thisistheconversationproject.com/ground news, this is theconversationproject.com/ground news. You will get a chance to get in on these plans for a great discount, 40% off their Vantage plan, and you can get so much, so good, or sometimes so bad, at a great deal going forward. We use Ground News every day, even as I've not been doing news broadcasts. I'm still checking articles, still doing things here or there. I've done a couple quick videos here or there to check on some things, and I've used Ground News to see what the coverage is going back and forth. This coverage in Minneapolis and this current shooting is bonkers. And if you can see the difference, watch the video we had talking about gaslighting, the difference what we have between what the federal government is saying and what everyone else who basically saw it with their own lying eyes is saying, you may think that something's going wrong in the world today. You're probably right. But Ground News can help you sort of sort out what the news coverage is and who's covering it, how and what, so that you can make a decision based on how you want to roll with it from there. So check it out at thisistheconversationproject.com/ground news. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. This is an affiliate link, so we do get a small commission. That is the part where I said they take care of us for taking care of you. But check it out. They will take care of you and your news junkie lifestyle with Ground News. Our important ports of entry are the website. This is theconversationproject.com. It is our email address, theconversationinbox@gmail.com, and our feeds on Facebook and X. We love you on YouTube. We need many folks on YouTube to watch and comment there as well. But we love you on Facebook and on X as well, because if you follow us along there, you'll see that every 50 minutes or so, we're posting various news articles, various places to gauge from you what we should be talking about in larger detail. So it's not just me pulling a script. Obviously, Minneapolis became the story after I thought Friday, I went to bed waiting for the snow to start, because it started kind of late, and then just had waiting for it to hit the ground to do what we needed to do. Once hit the ground Saturday, I started working on my talk for the next couple of days because I'm snowed in and can't go any place here on Monday. And then the shooting happened on Saturday morning, and it overtook all of the news. In fact, all your news coverage is 2 breaking news stories, the weather, and the shooting. That's how it's been all weekend long. So we will do our best to cover things that are conversational, and you help us pick up some of the more conversational things that are out there that may get missed, because when breaking news happens and everything's overtaken by 2 stories this week, we didn't even get a lot of interjection by Donald Trump this week, which was really surprising. That is how it's been. Lately, it's been Trump will say something on Friday, and liberals will go nuts over all weekend, and that's been the story. This weekend, it was the seriousness of the ice and the snow, and the extreme seriousness of whatever is going on with Department of Homeland Security, with DHS, with ICE, and how they're handling things terribly. With that, it looks like I actually put the right date and everything in there, so I got all the slides right. I just skipped the story. Sorry. Monday, January 26, 2026. Nat can't actually guarantee I'll be here tomorrow. Not for anything in particular. Like I said, we just had a full week of kind of sitting through and sifting through news stories. So I wanted to see a couple things to see how they work today. They seem to work. So thank you very much. Much love going out to anyone who watched me live or is watching me live. Very much love for Duchess of Picture Rocks, who gave me a comment this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed enough to just subscribe to the channel and again, just watch it late. Or get some bits and pieces, and we'll work on as we work for the next couple days, getting back to getting some more clips and new things going on. One of the issues is funding. Some of the things that popped up as actual good ideas and great tools to use cost more now after they got redefined as better tools, and so we need your help. Go to our website, consider becoming a partner. Go to the YouTube page and consider joining there as well. Help us pay some bills and pay for extra stuff and grow as a channel, grow as a community, grow as news nerds. Love you. Mean it. We out.